Assemblywoman Selena La Rue Hatch, we really appreciate your time from the state of Nevada, joining us from your home in Reno. First off, I think your political title speaks for itself, but we're also going to talk about education in this interview. What's your background in that?
So I am a high school world history teacher, and this is my 10th year in the district. So I have a whole lot of history with education.
And then how long have you been into politics?
This is actually my freshman term. So I've been very active for a long time, but this is my first year as an elected.
Okay, so you just went through the Nevada State Legislature, which I think started, February, wrapped up in June, 120 days.
Yep.
SB 509, the A's public funding bill for a new stadium at the Tropicana site, it came up literally so late in the game. Titled SB 509, it never left committee. Then it went into a special session labeled SB 1. Then it stalled. Then it went into a weekend full of amendments and other crazy stuff. And then eventually it gets passed for $380 million. What am I not seeing from the outside about how that all shook out?
I mean, you described it pretty well. It was a very rushed process. I think that it was rushed on purpose. We got it at the very last minute. We didn't get a whole lot of information from the A's leadership or ownership. It was negotiated very much in back rooms with the governor. We got it at the last minute at the end of session. We were told it's not a priority, don't worry about it. Any questions we had weren't really answered. And then all of a sudden we get a surprise special session and we're supposed to pass it in a couple of days. And, obviously I voted no on the bill. And so I have my own viewpoints, but it felt very purposeful. The lobbyists for the A's didn't even register as official lobbyists. They couldn't answer any of our questions. It just felt like, don't ask, don't ask, don't ask. Just give us the money and let's go.
I saw photos of A's owner John Fisher and team president Dave Kaval in Carson City, and I don't know if that was one trip or multiple trips, and I do know that they had conversations with some. Was any of that announced? Did you have the opportunity, or what did you hear about that?
Yeah, they didn't stop by to see me. Now, I was very public from the start that I was opposed to this deal. I just didn't feel like my questions were answered, and I felt far too many economists have just told us that publicly subsidizing stadiums doesn't pay off. So maybe that's why they didn't stop by my office, but I know that John Fisher came once. He didn't make any appointments with anyone. He just kind of wandered the halls and chatted with some people that he already knew were in favor of it. And Dave Kaval came and answered one question in front of the legislature, gave a horrible answer that didn't actually address any of the issues, and then never spoke to us again publicly.
So again, from the outside looking in, that weekend where it was in the special session, everybody needed a break. It had already been a long couple months. There were amendments thrown into SB 1 to kind of, spice it up as if it were a cooking recipe. What exactly happened there? What were the things that enticed lawmakers to finally say, okay, we'll vote on this and we'll vote yes?
So I can't necessarily say why my other colleagues voted yes. I clearly wasn't swayed and I still voted no. But I know that there were amendments brought in. Previously vetoed bills were added to this one as a way of gaining more votes. The governor vetoed it, but he's for sure going to sign this one. I know that some people had some of their questions answered. I think they added a little bit more structure onto some of the agreements, but it definitely was a whole lot of pressure, and there were arguments made for those on the fence, and those of us that were a no, we weren't talked to at all.
So, and also from my understanding, Governor Lombardo did sign SB 1. That's correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But he also said that in 2 weeks' time, this was back mid-June, in 2 weeks' time, we'll have a public signing ceremony. Officials from the A's will also be there. We'll take the photos. We'll make this official for the public. We are more than 2 months removed from that, and it never happened. Why is that?
I can't speak to why the governor hasn't done something. I will tell you, I think it's deeply unpopular with the public. Every single email I have gotten from my constituents is, this is horrible, please stop it. And then after it was passed, this is horrible, how do we do something now? I don't know if that's why they're not holding a public signing. It might also be now that there's efforts for a referendum that things are a little more unsure. But I do think it's telling that they don't want to exactly brag about this in front of voters.
When Steve Yeager says that, things he saw was a lot of neutrality, a lot of undecided opinions from Nevadans who obviously have a say in this or an opinion in this, what did the research tell you about? And I know you said you got some emails, but were you ever presented with, here's a big picture look at how Nevadans view this opportunity or not? What information were you given?
So we were given a poll from the A's that they claimed showed overwhelming popularity for them moving to Nevada. I think it showed 70% supported a baseball team coming to Nevada, but they did not ask if they would support public money going to it. And I don't know if they even asked specifically about the A's. So that didn't feel very compelling to me. There was the Nevada Independent, which is a local newspaper. They did some polling, which showed that the majority did not support public money for this stadium. And then, like I said, every conversation I have had with constituents through emails, but also in person, as I've gone to events over the summer, almost every person has started with, "Thank you for voting no on the A's. What do we do now?" So at least anecdotally, as well as that poll showed me that they didn't really support this bill.
So public, from your perspective, clearly against this. Lawmakers still go with it. What's the disconnect there?
Yeah, I don't know if I can explain exactly why my colleagues voted the way they did. Obviously, I voted the way I did. I think also I'm in the north, and that is not where the A's will be relocating. And so I think some of our Las Vegas colleagues may have voted differently. Maybe they have heard differently from their constituents, but I think that, at least for me, my job is to represent my constituents, and that's what I heard, and that's how I voted.
So you're in the north, and that's a great point, too. Las Vegas, I should say the state of Nevada, very much like California, north and south, and we know we're separate. Same thing with Reno and Las Vegas. When Steve Hill spoke in front of the legislature and said that, it's a likely potential that the A's will play their temporary seasons either in Summerlin or potentially at the baseball park in Reno, almost like a carrot dangled out there to the community of Reno. From what you know and understand, has any of that been discussed, that the A's could play temporary seasons there? And would that actually be a boost? And would that be desirable for the community of Reno?
I actually haven't heard anyone suggest that, which is interesting. You'd think that they'd reach out to our community and say that, but we have heard nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know that would change much. Our community was pretty opposed to the Raiders Stadium when it was built. They're very opposed to this stadium because, in all honesty, money is being taken from our schools and our communities to build a stadium which doesn't even have any proven benefit for the local economy in Las Vegas, let alone the one up here in the north. So I'm not sure that would be a huge draw for my community.
Well, and you make the great transition here because we're talking about public opinion and how SB 509 and SB 1 panned out. But now it's kind of here in the present, and there is a huge opposition by teachers in the state of Nevada because of obvious reasons. The education system there is not working out. It could use a little bit more funding before anything else. And we read what we read about Nevada ranking among the worst out of 50 states. How bad actually is it?
So this is the reason that I ran for office, because I am a teacher. And when I ran, I had 45 sophomores in each of my 6 classes.
45?
Which is 45.
Wow.
That's an insane number of 15-year-olds to have in a room together. And it's not uncommon. We are the largest class sizes in the nation. We just invested record amounts of money. We increased our education budget by 26%. But even with that record investment, we will still be 46 in the nation in per pupil funding. That's how big of a hole we were in. And while I'm really proud of that work, I also had a bill to address our class sizes. It would have cost about $250 million. And I was told that's too expensive. So to be told it's too expensive to fix our class sizes, but we do have $400 million for a billionaire to build a baseball stadium, that's a really hard pill for teachers to swallow.
What was the timing and process of your bill and how it went? Or did it go quick? Was it turned down quickly? And then obviously we know the A's went basically at the last possible opportunity. How did the timeline of that play out?
Yeah, they were separate discussions. Mine was more at the beginning of session when we were told we didn't have enough money. And I understand, like, I'm a freshman legislator, all my bills are not going to get through. But I think when you tell legislators we can't, and then a billionaire shows up and suddenly we can, then there's going to be some questions.
So that brings us to schools over stadiums. What is this group about? What's the aim? What do they need? What's the likeliness that this could have any impact? Like, what's the goal of this group, Schools Over Stadiums?
Yeah, so this group, Schools Over Stadium, formed because a bunch of teachers were really frustrated. And I'm including Las Vegas teachers in this as well, because they have some of the worst class sizes in our state. And so they were really frustrated. They felt like they were shut out of this very rushed process. They felt like the voters didn't really get a say. And so this group formed, and they are trying to raise money right now in order to be able to get a ballot initiative to put on our ballot next November. And if they raise enough money and they get enough signatures, then this will go before the voters of the state of Nevada. And the voters will get to decide if we want to give public money to this baseball stadium or not.
So it's a referendum vote. And forgive me, you said this November or next November of 24?
Sorry, next November, not this one coming up in just 2 months.
So how does that work then? If baseball at this point, and I know that you're not involved with Major League Baseball, but they're looking to move forward this process. They're probably liking or desiring to have a vote by the end of this year. How did the timing of those two things work? Because baseball could approve relocation, and then in November of 2024, or even before then, the A's will come seeking the money that was promised to them. How does the timing of that work out?
Yeah, so in all honesty, I think it would be foolish to hold that vote prior to this referendum because, as you pointed out, if the voters reject this, then there is no public money for this stadium.
Right.
And so if John Fisher wants to move, he'll then have to put up that money with private equity in order to make it happen. So I think that this referendum does throw a little bit of uncertainty into the planning.
Parent to parent here, the Las Vegas Strip and a major league ballpark that's aimed and designed and geared towards families and kids. Do those two things even at all go together?
I think that's one of the issues I had with the hearing, and several of my colleagues did, is they couldn't really answer that question. Not even just having a ballpark on the Strip, but having a ballpark in Las Vegas that is supposed to have a retractable roof on 9 acres, which also doesn't make sense. We were told it's supposed to be one of the most walkable parks in the nation, but Las Vegas in the summer gets up to 120 degrees. Nobody is walking to that ballpark. Nobody is going to sit outside in 120 degrees and watch a game. And additionally, the traffic to the Strip is horrendous. Even as it is right now, it's difficult for workers to get to the Strip, and locals just don't go there because there is no way you are going to get to anywhere on the Strip in less than an hour. So to say that it's made for locals just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I don't think it squares with the reality of that location.
In your mind, final question here, where we're at right now versus what is ultimately best for everybody involved? What's a best case scenario of how this all plays out?
I think best case scenario, the Oakland A's stay in Oakland and John Fisher pays for his own stadium.
Simple as that. Maybe even here.
Especially there.
We appreciate the time and opportunity, and I know that this kind of all got thrown on your plate. Same thing with the Nevada State Legislature, so appreciate your honesty and helping us be informed and giving us some perspective. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, anytime.